College football fans, welcome back to the College Ball Show. He's Marshall. I'm Chris. And we're here to discuss what else? The good old NCAA football, I was going to say tournament. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, we're back to talk some college ball. Last week, although we did get some upsets, the Friday night and Wednesday night games, I should say, were actually really fun to watch. We had some, like I said, competitive or closer games than we thought. But, it wasn't necessarily that great of week, especially if you're Tennessee, but we won't get into that right away. We did end up with 6 games postponed last week. That one was rough, dude. I remember us talking about Florida and the Florida coach talking about how he wants the whole stadium to be jam-packed because he was mad that they lost a game and they got to make noise and all that, as if that wouldn't be a normal game. But then sure as shit, they got a breakout on the team. You can't even play your game, and then you get COVID. It's like, dude, how freaking perfect is that? Now, I'm not trying to wish anything bad about him, but come on, dude. Like, that's just ridiculous. But anyway, the Big Ten is back. Like I said last week, Georgia-Alabama was a pretty damn good game until it wasn't. Florida State got a nice upset, although I wouldn't really put North Carolina at the top 5, but they did get a nice win. Like I said, Tennessee is not back. Let's stop saying that. They had a bad outing. And like I said, a variety of other games we'll get into. Clemson in the first half, oh my goodness gracious, that was crazy. Our Raging Cajuns went down swinging against Coastal Carolina. We said that'd be a good game. It was. Same with SMU and Tulane. That was actually a pretty fun game too. But this week, we are back to almost normal. The Pac-12 still has to come in 2 weeks. 2 weeks come this weekend anyway. But Week 8 is jam-packed with a variety of games. NC State, North Carolina, that should be a good one, ranked versus ranked. Iowa State, number 17 against number 6, Oklahoma State. That's another 6. Are you sure they're 6? But, yeah, we know the ratings are weird. Michigan, number 18 against Michigan's the favorite now. They weren't before. 21 Minnesota. Have they seen the temperature, what it's going to be? And SMU Cincinnati for that smaller conference look. That should be a really, really fun game, and a variety of other, games under the radar, or of course the crappy pick of the week, which is what we closed the show on. But real quick, let's jump into what was the biggest game of the week. One of the bigger rating games of the regular season, that's for sure. Alabama, Georgia, really good game. It looked like for a moment that Georgia was going to kind of pull away there for a moment. It was like, hold on now. Let's it's 24-17 now. Still 24-20. And then all hell broke loose. The quarterback there, Bennett, had a rough one, 3 picks, 18 of 40 for 269. And anytime you're throwing for 40, you want to probably get, a little bit more than that. They ran the ball just okay. Jones looked really good throwing the ball deep. They have 3 wide receivers, not to mention a grown man in Najee Harris. 31 carries, $152 and a touch. Like I said, D. Smith had 11 receptions, $167 and 2 touchdowns. Alabama just out Alabama Georgia, but for a while there, like I said, when it was 24-17, I was like, okay, dude, we got ourselves a ball game here, and then like I said, all hell broke loose. You're on mute too, just so you know.
Okay, and then after this, you want to tell people how they can listen to our podcast too? I know you're so excited to talk Bama.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Okay.
I'm just gonna do it a little bit different.
Sure. So yes, I was saying Roll Tide. I did bet them. I bet them -5.5. During the first half, I was nervous because all week I heard about how this Georgia quarterback ain't going to be able to walk into Tuscaloosa and get a win. And in the first half, Chris, he walked into Tuscaloosa, and he wasn't kicked out of town yet. And honestly, the Alabama defense we saw in the first half was the same Alabama defense that put up a lackluster effort against Ole Miss. And God, we'll get to Ole Miss because what a shit show that was. But Saban's halftime comments were, you know what? Because I think that Jamie Erdahl asked him, what do you got to say about your defense? And he's like, we have our assignments and we do the right things. We're a good defense. The guys just miss assignments. And a lot of that's coaches talk. But I think in all sincerity, it was really true for that game. Because in the second half, they did their assignments and Georgia's offense was done. Like, this kid went from putting up 24 on Bama in the first half relatively easily, I would say, to some awful immature picks, and they didn't score an effing point. So clearly for the halftime adjustments, massive thumbs up to Bama. Again, your defense had played like crap for your standards for the past 6 quarters. You come out there, pitch a shutout, which Georgia fans were probably not expecting. I sure didn't. I bet Georgia's second half team total because I thought it was gonna remain a shootout. But again, for Georgia, we before our podcast, we're talking about people being conservative. Georgia comes out in the second half, has a really conservative drive. They did a lot of runs, doesn't cash in. Then you start to lose the field position battle, and the kid makes some bad picks, which as a young quarterback you kind of expect, and it was just pretty much a wrap from there. And meanwhile, in the first half, and I'll throw it back to you after this, I didn't think Mac Jones looked that good for Bama. There was at least 4 to 5 passes where he was throwing off his back foot. And that shit, that's a high school move. Like, and again, I'll tip the cap to Georgia. Georgia's defense is solid, but you're a Bama quarterback. What are you doing chucking up a bunch of throws flat-footed or off your back foot? Like, that's something you normally don't see from an elite college quarterback or a regular college quarterback. Like, he was really just winging it, Chris. And again, in the second half, they had that huge 90-yard touchdown that kind of broke the back of Georgia, and he got some rhythm.
Kind of stumbled, right? Yeah.
But I will say, to wrap up this summary, it was fascinating to see a role reversal of quarterback skills in the first half, and then kind of a role reversal of defenses in the second half. And Bama made the plays they did. Credit to them. They got a win they needed. There's probably going to be a rematch with them again, but I was not impressed with quarterback plays of different pieces of the games, but Bama got the job done, which was a win they had to have for them to continue their chances to contend for a title this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And like you said, Jones settled in, but and after that bomb with the little stumble, that kind of looked like a push-off until you saw the replay.
Mm-hmm.
That just broke open the game. But, it was the interceptions and also just a couple of misses, too. Even when they, it was just like, dude, where are you throwing the ball, man? Like, it was bad. It's funny because that's what it can just mess with you when you're betting or doing predictions or whatever. And I remember picking Auburn on the strength of this freaking guy. He comes out and has a pretty solid game. Now turns around in another big game and just even, look good too. That was what was crazy. It's like you'd think you'd have that confidence of, being up that score and, like you said, putting up 24 points at half and whatnot. That was crazy. But Bama put up a whole lot of offense, like 540 or something like that, and they pretty much steamrolled after that point. And if this is your first time, by the way, listening to the College Ball Show, welcome. It streams live right here on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio. It streams live at archives. However, if you want to listen to the show, you don't have to go to Blog Talk and download the show there or listen to it on the browser. You can find this show under the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast at Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Player FM, TuneIn, Stitcher, really across the board. We're also part of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network, which can be found almost everywhere, including Spotify. While you're at it, why don't you head on over to thegruelingtruth.com. It's football, it's basketball, it's baseball, it's everything. It's boxing, it's everything in between. And one more thing, if you're thinking about cutting the cord or you're not quite happy, I got something for you. It's called AT&T TV Now. It's live streaming cable. They have the 7-day free trial. There's no annual contract to tie you down per usual. $55 a month the plans start at. You can stream it anywhere. They have the cloud DVR. And right now, just for signing up, you get a 30-day free trial of HBO Max. There's another layer, though. If you sign up for the Max package, that already includes HBO Max plus a free month of Showtime, which is normally $11 a month. That's AT&T TV Now, live streaming cable. Let's kind of bounce back and forth with a couple more SEC games. We're going to get to Tennessee, but Auburn and South Carolina. And Auburn's had their problems. South Carolina's not a great team, but they are what you'd like to call scrappy. They're not going to go down without a fight. Even if they're in the game, they're usually in the game. Sometimes they get blown out, sure, but Auburn started out pretty good. They got up, I think 10-zip or 9-zip or whatever. Actually, I'm looking at it right now, and Bo Nix throws a pick that led to a touchdown. Like it is back and forth game. 16-7 they got up, 16-14 at half, 19-14. You're still feeling pretty confident, but then a touchdown drive, 9 plays, 75 yards, almost 4 minutes, gets South Carolina up 20-19, and they force them a 3-and-out. They threw a pick, but then Bo Nix threw a pick. Then there was a touchdown run. It was ugly. They just tried to get back in the game, and they never really could. They have an 11. There was 30-22, which was the final score, but they had an 11-play drive that they turned it over on downs, so they couldn't quite get over the hump. But man, 24 of 47, 272, 47 pass attempts. That seems pretty high for an Auburn quarterback. They had 209 in rushing, and they only give Bigsby the ball 16 times. I would have liked to seen a little bit more of that. And on the flip side, they had 43 carries as a team, and Harris, their running back, had 25 carries. Now, he had 2 touchdowns, only had 83 yards for 25 carries. That's not great. But what it does is, it controls the clock. And that was just enough. And Auburn loses another game. Nix, in his sophomore season, doesn't look like the savior for the program thus far. I know his dad coached, but right now they got a little problem.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few bad quarterbacks in the SEC this year, and we'll get to them. But this is not the quarterback division from the Holy Land this year. It's pretty bad. But for this game, and actually,
it's not the defense either anymore. It seems. So what the hell is it then?
I don't know. It's Bama and a bunch of stadiums of fans that don't wear masks. But I enjoyed this game there, and I was just a little excited to watch the game, Chris, more so than the regular one, because man, there's a lot of shit talking in this game. Almost every play in the second half, there were guys, John, and I get that talking crap is part of football, but there was some like bad blood almost every play. Someone was like picking, pushing, or throwing some punches around. It felt like after every play. So I think there's more of rivalry there than maybe we realized, or maybe it was just one of those days where both sides were kind of fired up. So it was a fun game to watch. The emotion was there. It's just all the emotion in the world was with South Carolina and their home team, and Bo Nix couldn't fix any momentum to help him. I believe it was Joe Horn's son, who's a South Carolina cornerback, had 2 picks, had some big pass deflections, had himself a hell of a game. And again, when you're giving up a pick 6 and having big clutch interceptions in the second half, it's hard to win. And we're still at the point where Bo Nix is not quite the quarterback that we think he can be. I remember the first game last year against Oregon, people really loved him. And last year, for the most part, the norm of him, Chris, is that he's an average quarterback. And you see these Auburn rankings always stay high, but again, he's relatively an average quarterback. And even his wide receiver was, getting pissed at him. And again, that happens during a game. I don't think that's really a huge deal for a wide receiver and a quarterback to butt heads. That's part of football and life. But the ceiling for Auburn, as long as he's our quarterback, is going to remain relatively low because there's games where he's not going to win them for you. And you could argue that he's part of the reason they lost that game. Now, you could also maybe blame the Auburn defense because I don't believe South Carolina's offense is that incredible. But, yeah, it's just another game where they were ranked 15th, which was probably too high. And Bo Nix had some struggling picks, and the offense had no flow. And give credit to South Carolina. That's a big win. It is the first time since South Carolina has been in the SEC they've beat Auburn. So they snapped a 12-game conference losing streak. So maybe that part of that probably was the John back and forth. Like, you've heard that quote of you can't call it a rivalry if you never beat your opponent. And hell, I could only imagine, Chris, if you've been smacked 12 times by a team over and over and over, you never beat them in conference, that'd be a little bit of a special moment. Again, I'm not saying South Carolina is going to win a title this year, but for the sport fans we are, and neither of us are Gamecock fans, but if we were, you'd have to be dog tired of losing to that team over and over again, and you're like, oh, well, shit, it's Bo Nix. This is our chance. And they got it done, so tip the cap to them. And if you're Auburn, I know Gus Malzahn ain't going to switch his mind on Bo Nix, but again, maybe it's something to consider if you want to get the higher rankings that a lot of people in your fan base in the country think they deserve.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do remember paying attention to them more not that long ago when the old ball coach was there, Steve Spurrier, and also the Gamecocks back in high school was a really fun hat to wear at high school and see how long it take for them to tell you to take that fucking thing off. So that was pretty fun. Switching gears, but not out of the SEC yet. Kentucky beats Tennessee.
Talk about quarterback.
34-7. And yeah, talk about quarterback. It is. They're down already 17-0. Get back. Okay, here we go. We're going to get something. Or wait, I'm looking at the wrong game. What the fuck am I thinking? No, but they, dude, this was crazy because they had their chances early. Like, they had an 11-play drive. How do you have an 11-play drive and then you end up punting? But it only went 32 yards. That's why
it's hard to do.
Yeah, and then I think there were some penalties in there now that I remember. But then, they fumbled Kentucky. So it was like, okay, what are you going to do with it? We're going to fumble. Then, defense held. This punt is still 0-0. Kentucky had a 6-play drive, 9 yards. Punt, no problem. Interception, touchdown. Interception, touchdown. Interception led to a field goal. They came back with a 14-play drive, got to 17-7, but a touchdown, field goal, touchdown, and some turnovers on downs for Tennessee. This one was ugly, and like you said, talk about quarterbacks, 14-21, 88 yards, 2 picks, both for touchdowns. And once again, Marshall, they're running the ball. They got a guy, Gray, who had 24 carries for $128. Just take care of the ball. Who knows what happens in the game?
So I'm going to get to a crazy thing I've never seen to the best of my knowledge for a game later in the show, but I'm also not sure if I've ever seen a college football game start off with your first 2 scores of the game were pick sixes. I don't think I've watched football you and I have probably combined watched over 1,000 games for our lifespan. And I don't think either of us have ever seen a time where you start off pick six. That shit's crazy. And they were both bad passes. It's one thing in football because there's times where a quarterback will throw a great pass, the ball bounces off the wide receiver's hands, or the wide receiver slipped, or the wide receiver fell down. It's not always
tipped quarterback at the line or whatever, right? Yeah.
But that was not the quarterback's. There was no sympathy. It was, dude, you effed up. And this is a kid who, Chris, if you rewind 4 quarters, 4, okay, because that happened in the second quarter. If you go back a half game when they were up on Georgia at half, Then you go to the second half of the Georgia game where he had, I believe, a fumble and 2 picks in the second half. And then he starts off the Tennessee-Kentucky game with 2 pick sixes. Clearly, we talked about how the ceiling for Auburn is relatively low because of Nix. This Tennessee kid, I'm not sure what you do because shit, Chris, they brought the backup in and he threw a pick too. Seemed to bring back in the scrub. So, if you're Tennessee, you're thinking, well, holy shit, we won 8 games in a row. We're finally off the doormat of the conference, and we play a couple of good teams. And now we're at a situation where our quarterback play is so bad with Gorentano that I don't know if the coach knows what to do. Because clearly the backup name is Harrison Bailey. He comes in and sucks it up. That JT Stroud, the other backup, threw a pick.
You got to get Gorentano out of town, dude. What the fuck?
I don't know.
No, it's crazy, dude. I mean, this was the worst loss in Tennessee history as a ranked team getting beat by an unranked team as a ranked team, 27 points. And the first win from Kentucky at Tennessee since 1984. They had a 17-game losing streak at Tennessee.
And let's give one shout out. And you mentioned that the defense has not been the theme this year for the NFL or college, but I will give defensive massive props because it's college football and random shit happens all the time. Kentucky has given up 9 points in the past 120 minutes. You gave up a safety to Mississippi State, which wasn't your fault, and you gave up 1 drive to Tennessee. So this Kentucky team, they had a rough game against Ole Miss. They've come back now and given up 7 points in 2 effing games. That is remarkable. I'm not a diehard Cats fan, but for college football this year in a sport where defenses are struggling, to give up 7 points in such a short time is really remarkable, Chris. Maybe this is a team that, again, I don't think they can win the conference, but maybe Kentucky could finish with a ranking that is one of their best ever in school history because apparently their defense is pretty damn good this year.
Yeah. Speaking of a defense that's not pretty damn good, no, actually, I'm not trying to rip on Georgia Tech at all. But at halftime, it's 52-7. Lawrence, 22 of 27, 391, 5 touchdowns at the half, which is just nutty, dude. Unbelievable. Clemson extended its regular season win streak to 37 games. That ties for the 3rd longest such streak in AP poll history, the era, which is 1936. Clemson's 66-point victory over Georgia Tech was the largest by an ACC team in the conference. I mean, it was just a massacre. Just a couple other games while we're kind of breezing through this. I talked about how the Reggie Robertson Jr., who's a really good wide receiver for SMU, was out. And you thought, I wonder if they're going to have as much firepower. And 7 plays of 30-plus yards. They had 4 different receivers catch at least one 40-yard pass, and 3 finished with 100 yards. And like I said, that's without that Reggie dude. Couple other ones, we hear obviously Sam Ehlinger's put up points. If you look at the most passing TDs all time among active quarterbacks, he has 84. Lawrence has 76. But what is it? Buscelli from SMU, he's got 75 now. So you got to put a little respect on his name. And there was actually, I'll get to a couple other ones, but that Memphis UCF quarterback stuff. I mean, both of them had over 450 and 5 touchdowns. I mean, let's see, what is that? Second game in the last 20 seasons, opposing QBs had 450 and 5 touchdowns in that Memphis USCF game. And I thought that game was done, that Memphis Central Florida game. Kudos to Memphis for coming back in that game. I thought it was done, man. It was probably like 4 minutes left. They're down by like 2 scores. Like, it's over.
Yeah, I mean, with those offenses, it's always a literal track meet. I kicked myself because I wanted to bet the over in that game, and I was stupid, and I just for some reason didn't. And that would have been an easy Bet you normally don't see an over-under of 73 and feel confident in the over, but I should have, and that was dumb on my part. But those teams always put together pretty fun games. Obviously, Memphis normally always seems to have a couple of players who go pro every year or every other year, and then UCF has just been a firehouse offensively or powerhouse offensively for the past handful of seasons. So that was definitely a fun one. And I'll be an honest man here. I'm a guy who loves to brag about Kiffin. I always have my Lane Kiffin story, and this week it's a story, but there's not a whole lot of bragging. Speaking of shitty SEC quarterbacks, Corral for Ole Miss decided to, I don't know, I believe it's called a golden sombrero when you strike out 4 times in a baseball game. I'm not sure what the terminology is when you throw 6 picks in an effing football game, but it's maybe like I'm
That's
not
like
sure.
some Trent Dilfer stuff. I think he had 7 picks in a game, if I remember correctly.
God almighty. Now, I will say, I'm going to give credit to Arkansas again. They've kind of become my second adopted team after Raging Cajuns, who will always be our first. But, I mean, this is a team who was garbage for 3 years in a row. They've now won back-to-back games. It's their first home win, I think, in since 2016. But Barry Odom, who was a Mizzou coach, who wasn't really a good fit for a Mizzou head coach, has put together a couple of really nice game plans, Chris, defensively. You held Georgia in containment for the first half, and you shut down an Ole Miss offense who really had been dropping 40 on teams effortlessly. Barry Odom drew up a hell of a game plan because Ole Miss didn't know what to do. And these picks weren't like lucky tips. These picks were the Arkansas defense was in the right spot, and they disguised it. And Corral was just chucking the ball up, and every hand was going to the other team. It was just a masterful scheme of defense. Felipe Franks and Arkansas's offense wasn't that great. It was really a back and forth turnover battle, but a garbage ass performance. And I mean, you throw 6 picks in a game. Clearly, that John Reese Plumlee, who was their really fast quarterback last year, must have dug himself a hole in training camp. So I thought you'd bring someone in. But man, credit to Arkansas. And if I'm Lane Kiffin, I'm probably pulling out my damn hair because you're not used to having such a shitty performance. But Ole Miss had a bad game. They got a tough one coming up this weekend too, but an awful performance. And speaking of awful performances, as you mentioned, Chris, again, Clemson was maybe getting fed up of hearing about people say, do you guys, are you guys going to run up the score? What kind of opponents do you have this year? When you drop a 77 on people, that kind of reminds people in the conference, when we want to, we could. Now, again, I don't think Clemson needs to score 77 a game to prove a point. But yeah, that was maybe a weekly reminder to those in the conference that, hey, if we want to, we can hang up 70 on almost anyone. And they did. So that was pretty entertaining. But I got to tell you my one other crazy thing, because I mentioned to you how I saw the back-to-back pick sixes. What I also saw, because you mentioned SMU. In the SMU game this past week, of course, I bet SMU to cover -3.5. They won by 3. That sucks. But in that game, Chris, have you ever seen in your lifetime a team convert a 3rd and 39?
No, and I forgot that. I totally forgot about that.
Holy
Glad
shit.
that you brought that up.
I'm feeling good. I mean, SMU's up 3. I'm like, all right, I need another go-ahead touchdown. I need to get the point spread on my side. I'm like, okay, so it's literally, I think they had 4 penalties. And it's 3rd and 39. They're at midfield. The dude throws a freaking bomb that's caught on the 5-yard line. How in the world does a set of safeties, how do you get beat on 3rd and 39? I literally, I was in shock. I wasn't upset because I was more so baffled as to how the hell that happens. Like your defensive game plans. All right, guys, it's 3rd and 39. Let's let them check it down, and someone on this earth will make a tackle. Maybe they'll trip over their own feet. But no, dude throws a freaking rope, 45-yard bomb caught in the 5, and they score. And of course, I lose covering by half point. But holy shit, I saw back-to-back pick 6 start a game and a 3rd and 30 F&9 completion. Damn, the college football got some days, Chris, because that was just, I don't think I'll ever see a 3rd and 39 before I die again. And I told my boys in my group chat, I said, if it happens again, I'm sending all of y'all $39 because I guess I don't know. God almighty.
What was that? I think it was the year that Philly had to Owens, and it was against the Packers, I think, in the
Yeah,
playoffs. What
I
the hell
think that
was that?
I think it
That's
was
like
like
third and
or 24, 25.
it was
But
long,
I know it
especially in a
wasn't
playoff game.
39. But
Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
you're right, 100%.
I was
Yeah,
just trying to think, like,
was it Freddie Mitchell? The cop?
I
No.
think that's who it
Yeah.
was, dude. I think that's who it was. That makes sense because that's like the only thing the guy did. Yeah, dude, I think that's what it was. That's funny. Yeah, I was trying to think. I'm like, man, as far as converting it, I mean, I've seen some down and distances, but I haven't seen it converted.
God Almighty. Yeah.
That's kind of crazy, dude.
Well,
Go ahead.
speaking of bad defenses, this one truly surprised me because I also bet a game last week, a week ago. It was Georgia Tech against Louisville. And Louisville played a great first half, but they had a couple of hiccups, and I bet them to win the second half. And Georgia Tech really just made Louisville look like an awful team. Georgia Tech on a rainy day embarrassed Louisville's defense. So I was expecting Notre Dame to torch them. And Notre Dame won 12-7.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm okay. I could care less about Notre Dame. I'm not a fan at all. But if they're going to have the fourth ranking in the country and you scored 12 points against a defense who was obliterated the week before by a Georgia Tech team that got beat by 70, that might need to be either Notre Dame was sleeping for that game or Notre Dame better kind of get their stuff together because I was blown away. Every time I checked the score, it's like at one point Louisville was up 7-6.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure what happened there for the ACC. So Clemson dominated. Notre Dame looked like trash, and we had to wrap up our ACC talk. We had a Florida State, which probably felt like a win they've been waiting for 20 years, which shows how bad they are, Chris. They beat a team in Carolina who probably isn't.
Well, 20 years is a little. They did win a national championship in 2013. Yeah. Let's not forget about that.
So this is probably their best win they felt like they've had in 5 years as a fan base.
Yeah.
Florida State got up huge. They held on. It wasn't pretty, but they held on. So credit to Florida State, which we normally never say on this podcast, but they got a W. This is a college fan base that's always been prideful, but you've not had much to be prideful about of late. They pulled off the upset against North Carolina, who again, rankings are what they are this year. It's a weird year. Florida probably wasn't the fourth best team when they got beat by A&M, but hey, that's a win for Florida State. It's something to finally get the momentum going the right way. And for North Carolina, you kind of came out flat too, because this is a team who offensively also had been put on fireworks, but you were down 31-7 at halftime, and you weren't able to get the all the boys back together. Chris, I didn't see this one happening. Florida State's kind of been the joke of a team for a handful of years now. Again, neither of us are Florida State fans, but at least if you're that fan base, hey, you beat a highly ranked team. Maybe this is something for once now where you can build off it to have some type of positive spin moving forward for their season.
Yeah, it is a big win. First win as an unranked team versus a AP top 5 opponent since 2007. And like you said, they put up 31 points and then just sat on it and weren't. I mean, talk about 2 drop balls in the end of that game, especially the last one. Was like he just looped. He's just like, hey, it's like, what do you do? What do you drop a sub? Like what do you? How are you even catching that ball like that anyway? Of course, you're not going to catch it when you try to catch it like that. But they did end up closing it out after that. The Bama game got out of reach before the big fight last Saturday. Me and my buddy turned it on. He's a Florida State fan. We turned it on and watched the last 6 minutes of that game. So that was a nice win. Obviously, offensive line have been a huge problem. Just going back real quick, that Gabriel from UCF, third player in the last 15 years to have 2 touchdown passes of 85 yards or more. There was a lot of long touchdowns because we just talked about that Bama one too. It's crazy. And then Arkansas State, 8 TD passes, most in a single game in school history, ties the Sun Belt record for North Texas versus Navy from about, November 2007. So that one was a pretty crazy game in general. so it was like an entertaining week, especially during the week, like Friday and Thursday. Like I said, that Georgia State, Arkansas State, the Coastal Carolina, Louisiana. I don't want to bring that up too much because our Raging Cajuns lost. But hey, I mean, it was actually a little bit better week than I thought. My Canes got the job done, grinded it out. The Pittsburgh Panthers are good at run defense, that's for sure, and we couldn't run on them. Ended up grinding out the game. I thought Virginia Tech looked pretty good against a decent Boston College team, 40-14. That was pretty much a surprise. Navy, East Carolina, 27-23. We'll get into that in a little bit. Liberty beat Syracuse 38-21, and the spread on their next game is just freaking despicable, dude. It's really bad. Like I said, there was 6 postponed games. Let's hope we can contain some of that. Any other? Oh, how's Mississippi State doing with that offense? That crazy. What is that? Where are they at right now? I'm just keeping tabs. Oh, that's right. They're 1-3, 28-14. So I guess they didn't necessarily take them by storm. They brought the backup in, Rogers, and Mond put up a nice game. That guy's like we said, he's had a long career. Any other items you'd like to get to out of this week? Otherwise, we do have a fair amount of games to break down because the Big Ten is back too.
No, let me just ask you a question. We haven't had as many questions this year. Just answer. What is the ceiling for your Canes this year? We've been talking a lot about teams with potential and what their ceilings are. What is best case scenario for your Canes you feel this season?
Well, best case scenario is just win out the rest of the games, I'd say, and then try to make it look a little bit better in the first half against Clemson. Because that we made a couple of key mistakes. Not that we would have won that game by any stretch of imagination, that's for sure. But I think that some of that is you got to be on your game early. You can't make dumb penalties that would extend a drive and that type of thing, either defense or offense. But yeah, I mean, if you look at it, Virginia, okay club. NC State, who looked pretty bad early, they've actually bounced back. I don't think they should be ranked, but we know the rankings are weird. So they got NC State, then Virginia Tech, who's pretty good this year. Georgia Tech, we don't know which one's going to show up. Wake Forest, and then they close with North Carolina. So, I mean, one more loss, okay. But I think that if we're going to call it a good season, we'd have to at least either win out or like a very good season, or just maybe lose one more. But, yeah, I'd say just win out, and I really don't know how we're going to do how the bowl season is going to work this year. It's still kind of weird, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, they still have a pretty damn good defense, that's for sure, and it's just nice to have a quarterback when something's going wrong, he just makes some plays with his feet and his arm, and we got a couple of deep balls. They're a young team, relatively speaking, overall, though.
And will you be an underdog at all for any games this year? Or are you going to be the favorite for the rest of your season?
That's a good question. Let me see what the road game was again, because that plays into it obviously as well. Virginia Tech, is that at home? It's at Virginia Tech, so I could see. And then we'll see where North Carolina is. If they're undefeated still at that point, they got to play Clemson, though, don't they?
Well, and they just lost to Florida State, so yeah.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, there we go. They actually – what? Oh, no, they already – no, they didn't. Wait, what? They don't play Clemson? I thought they played Clemson. I guess not. But, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Probably – maybe just at Virginia Tech.
All right, so, yeah, the ceiling is actually looking pretty good for your boys then.
Yeah, I mean, right now anyway, week 6 or week 7, going into week 8, we'll see. But yeah, they look like they're, like I said, it just helps to have a quarterback, especially in college football, because in college football, there's only a handful of guys in the NFL that can really just make that difference. I'm a top 5 guy, and if things aren't going well, we'll figure it out at some point in most games.
Sure.
Whereas in college, you can figure it out a whole lot. You know what I mean? And you can really out kick your coverage, I guess you could say. So yeah, I think I don't know. It's on the up and up. I really like the offensive coordinator, that's for sure. And we got a bunch of young guys who are ready to roll because it's just a 1-year thing. So yeah.
Cool.
Week 8, we have a variety of games to speak of. Oklahoma State, number 6 in the country, number 17, Iowa State, Michigan, Minnesota. When this was open, it was, I mean, man, did they put out some kind of does like a bunch of the team have COVID? When they asked who has, how many people are going to be out for COVID to PJ Fleck, he said, not 51 of them, like that, like however the roster is. Not that many. He didn't really talk about it. Obviously, he's not going to tell them right now. But they were a favorite, like a 1.5, I thought. And now they're a 3.5 point underdog. Obviously, there's really no big home field thing anymore. But small conference, Cincinnati, SMU, I'd assume you want to talk about a game that'll be up and down, 5-0 against 3-0. That's a pretty interesting game. There's a variety of North Carolina State, North Carolina. That'll kind of wean out those two teams, I'd say, as far as on the top 25 level. Why don't we start with, I mean, it kind of looks like this is one of the premier games. ABC made it a premier game and pushed it back. It was scheduled for Friday. Maybe that's what it is. It's like, oh, the Friday night we're going to give you, but the Saturday night, you're going to lose. They have Michigan right now a 3.5 point favorite. I don't see the over-under just yet. I know Michigan is breaking in a new quarterback, and that has been a theme with them. They tried Patterson. They've tried and tried, and they just haven't found even a 85% of an Andrew Luck who he had at Stanford, as we remember. So, whereas the Gophers, they lost some talent. Obviously, Winfield was a big, secondary guy, clearly. And, a couple other defensive players, but it's not going to really do much. Tyler Johnson, they lost, but Bateman did come back. He's been back for about 6 weeks now, and he got, like everybody else, he got cleared on that. So that's nice to have Bateman back. They got 6 guys that have all played a bunch of games over the last couple of years on offensive line. Every one of them came back this year. So, as long as there's no big mistakes and they can somewhat get the run, usually, lately, last year, you could actually, if you had a good run offense, you could run on that Michigan defense. It's usually not the case. Obviously, talent for talent, they're winning in the rankings. But, I think it's going to be a damn good game. How do you see this? I almost fed this fight. How do you see this fight breaking down? But how do you see this this primetime ABC game? Because that's what they switched it to.
I truly think it's just whatever team makes the least amount of mistakes in the first half. Because I've been watching a lot of teams who start their first game of the year, and there's just rustiness. There's a reason why. I thought these kind of stats were misleading or dumb. People really bought into them, but it's like X team loses first week 1 game in the past 25 years. Well, that's because normally Bama and Texas and Auburn, Oklahoma, all these schools do is they play a powder puff team because you need to get your feet wet. Like there's no shock that a lot of these teams, of course, they've not lost the game in week 1 because they never play a team where they're not less than a 25-point favorite against. So
yeah, they're not even in week 1 anyway. It's a weird. It's in training camp. Remember how you said don't put a bet the first week or two, and just feel it out.
Yeah.
It's still. I mean, that was great advice, but it's still a fucking mess right now, in a sense, But remember the Big Ten, their training camp was during school. So they didn't have 2 days or nothing like that. They were on that 20-hour thing. So It's going to be weird this game one, dude, and that's why I'm just going off experience on our offensive line and quarterback, and that might win the game.
It easily could. Again, there's going to be plays in the first half by both teams, which are really dumb, just because, again, it's the first game of the year. Like, you're going to have mistakes. You're going to cough the ball. You're going to do stuff you normally shouldn't do. But, again, just what team will limit their amount of dumb mistakes? And part of that's coaching. Part of that's the kids just being rusty. Part of it's just going to have to see what happens. So, I think from a betting perspective, this is a coin flip game, 100%. Either team could win this game, Chris. Now, I know you're a Gopher fan. I love PJ Fleck, and I want them to win. But I think if you're betting this game, unless you have some like deep inside knowledge of, they've been looking stellar in training camp or whatever the case is, I think this is a sit back and watch game. Talent level wise, the way that Fleck's been recruiting of late, it's not like these are different squads. Like 5 years ago, you'd say, okay, I'm not sure. The Gophers are going to have to pull off an upset. But the way the Gophers have played the last couple of years, like it's not an upset. This is two evenly skilled teams. So I would just hope for the lesser mistakes, hope for having a couple more oh shit moments and see who wins. And you're right. This is a primetime game. This should be a great game. There's so many unknowns. And again, like I said earlier, look at betting the under. The unders, at least from what I've seen, is and again, mistakes can go either way, but the offenses are probably gonna be a little bit behind. Defense is probably gonna be a step ahead. So maybe look at betting the first half under for Minnesota, Michigan.
So you gonna duck the pick? Or you gonna do the pick? We don't duck picks here.
I'll roll the boat. I'll take PJ. I just want bet. I just want bet more than a couple bucks.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. I wouldn't touch it. It's going to be weird, especially it's weird. Like I said, the offensive line, bringing back 6 dudes that have played the last 3 years together. And I know there's only 5, but we literally have played 6. And then we've had a quarterback. This is going on his 3rd year as a starter.
With a good wide receiving core as well.
Right. So
yeah.
That's the only reason.
Go Gophers. I hope they get the job done. I'm sure that the media will be loving Michigan nonstop like they always do. But yeah.
There we have it. Okay, so here's another one, ranked versus ranked. Number 9 Cincinnati and number 16 SMU, 3-0 against 5-0. There was an Army game earlier that they looked pretty good in. I'm talking about Cincinnati. They won 24-10 when Army was ranked anyway. They haven't. I mean, USF is not really a club that you can look at like they were a couple years back when they had that decent season. And they actually did start to mount something back then, but that's no longer. It's not like SMU's played a bunch of great teams, but Memphis is pretty damn good, and they won that game. And Tulane was another one too. So when you look at the matchup on this, though, dude, like it's pretty crazy. They both can run the ball. SMU is averaging 204 rushing, but also 359 passing. It's just crazy. Now, clearly they give up a lot more points because they're up and down the field. How do you see this one breaking down? This one is, I think, pretty close to a pick 'em too. It's 2.5-point favorites for. I think it's SMU's the 2.5-point favorite, but I mean, that's pretty much a coin toss too.
I don't know, because I actually wasn't impressed with SMU's quarterback play at all. I know they beat Tulane, but I thought that they had wide receivers with a skill level above, but I didn't think that Buechele was good at all. And I've also never, ever, ever been impressed with the other quarterbacks. So this is a game where I'm not quite sure what the hell to do. I don't have faith in either quarterback, Chris. So what's the next step when you're calling a game when you don't believe either team's quarterback? I'm not sure what that step is. God almighty. Shit. I'll take SMU as the home team. The Ritter, the quarterback for Cincinnati, that kid has been nothing special at all for 3 years. I'm not sure how the hell he's remained quarterback. And maybe the one game I saw Buechele, as you mentioned, with his stud wide receiver out was hurtful. But I'll take SMU, even though their defense looked soft as hell too. I'll take SMU. I would feel more confident betting the Gophers game than this one because neither of the teams have ever impressed me much despite their rankings. So SMU, but I'll bet maybe $10 max.
You don't think he's that good of a player, or you just think he's in a system and that's why he puts up numbers?
I thought that for Buechele, I think he's in a system where he's got a pretty run and gun type of coordinator. Like, dude, that in that game he was chucking the ball up 50 yards. And again, you deserve some credit for making those passes, but when your wide receivers are wide open, it wasn't that impressive to me. And I thought SMU as a team was pretty soft offensively, especially. And for Ritter in Cincinnati, he's a system quarterback to the T. And I really feel that this team is not achieving their ceiling at all. It's kind of been my theme this week with quarterbacks, but that kid has never impressed me at all. So I'm not going to bet on him to win a game on the road. Again, Buechele, now maybe if that star wide receiver comes back, maybe I'd have a little bit of a different picture of him. Oh, he's out again.
He's out for the season.
Okay. I knew they talked about him a lot. I'd missed it if it was a serious injury or not. So that's definitely a punch to the gut. So yeah, I would be lenient. I would be hesitant to bet on this one, but you're right. Match wise, it's a good game. It should be a fun one. I just don't trust either quarterback that much.
I'm going to go with Cincinnati just for some sort of form of defense in that game. It's like a 57.5 over under too. So yeah, it'll be just an entertaining game. You're right. It is kind of a pick 'em type game, and that's what's fun. Maybe not to bet on, but it's pretty damn fun. Here we go. Oklahoma State 3-0 against number 17, and Oklahoma State was 6. 3-1 Iowa State. According to ESPN's Football Power Index, Oklahoma State, the home team, is favored 73.6%. They're just going to walk away with this game, although it's a 3.5-point spread, which, I mean, can we really give a full 3 points for home field now? Of course, this isn't Oklahoma, so they probably will be packed. But I don't know. Should we start to get down to 2 or 1.5 or something like that? Do we really got it? I don't know if we can give a full 3 this season. 53.5 is the over-under. It's weird because Oklahoma State can play these – my fault. Iowa State can play these, score fests, but especially this year. I mean, they're winning some games that are super high scoring. So going into this, I probably wouldn't have, even into this year, I probably wouldn't go for the over-under there, but I think it'll go over. This is going to be a fun game, and I'm actually picking Iowa State as a very minor upset in my mind. First of all, we know Oklahoma State, shouldn't be number 6. It just is what it is. The teams that haven't been playing have just been moving down in the rankings. But 53.5, I feel like it's going over. Oklahoma State has the defense, but, they held Kansas to 7 points, and West Virginia, who's not that good this year, and then Tulsa, who's not garbage, but they barely got by that. What do you think about this matchup? I'm going to Iowa State.
It's crazy to think, Chris, that whoever wins this can control their own road to win the Big 12. Because if we're talking preseason, of course it's going to be OU and Texas. But I mean, whoever wins this is sitting really pretty to have a legit chance of winning it this year. So obviously it's a huge game, huge implications. Iowa State doesn't give 2 shits about ever going on the road. This is a team who, for the past 4 years since Matt Campbell's taken over, has always upset teams. This is also a team where, especially for Oklahoma State, and you have anyone of a memory, you were a quarter away from going to the national title game until you walked into Ames, Iowa, and lost with was that Rudolph? No, not Rudolph. That was maybe it was whoever the hell they had that running quarterback for. But yes, I mean, Iowa State's upset you before. Oklahoma State, as you mentioned, Chris, hasn't looked impressive at all. I know that first game against Tulsa, the quarterback got hurt, and that hurts you. But I think this is also a good coin flip game. We have a lot of good coin flip games this week, but I will take Iowa State, again, I just like the mentality. The quarterback-wise, they have a better quarterback. Obviously, Oklahoma State is a much better running back. They have one of the best running backs in the whole country.
Yeah.
Hands down. Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah, he's a stud.
But yeah, so I would lean Iowa State. You're getting a field goal. You know it's going to be a close game. I'd be very surprised if this game was a blowout. Iowa State doesn't seem to have blowouts, whether they win or lose. They seem to be in close games when there's something big on the line. So I'll give credit to Iowa State. I think they pulled off, and that will put them in the driver's seat for the Big 12 championship. As crazy as that sounds. I know.
In October, dude. That really tells you about the Big 12 this year. A couple other games that we're going to just kind of discuss, or not even discuss, but say, hey, keep an eye on, or, is that too much of a, against the spread type thing, but a lot of hardcore barn burners. The Raging Cajuns bouncing back against UAB. UAB a 2-point favorite, something to keep an eye on. Clemson, and this is what I was going to talk about here for a second. Clemson, 45.5 favorites over just dreadful Syracuse. But, 45 points. North Carolina's favored 16 points coming off a loss to NC State. Tells you what they think of NC State. Coastal Carolina coming off a big, a really good win there. They're going against Georgia Southern, who's kind of sneaky. Auburn, Ole Miss, they both need a win. That could be a grinded-out game. Oklahoma, TCU, wouldn't doubt if that's, a close game. Florida State, Louisville. Louisville will watch they snatch it. They're a 5-point favorite, and they've only won one game this year. They're actually not bad on offense, even though they didn't show that last week. But they got some skilled players on offense. Notre Dame, Pittsburgh. Can they win 10.5? I think they will, because they'll probably be like, what the hell was that? Penn State only 6.5-point favorite over Indiana. That's kind of interesting. Baylor, Texas just doesn't even feel like there's anything to it. 1-1 against 2-2. That's damn near crappy pick of the week.
Yeah, talk about two teams who've underachieved. I got nothing. And Liberty, I bet them they ran the ball through Syracuse like it was a high school football game with those size holes. So if Liberty can torch your run defense.
Well, that's Hugh Freeze, baby. Isn't Hugh Freeze there in Liberty?
Yeah, they're 5-0.
He's just recouping, dude. He's recouping the image, and he'll be back at a big conference before you know it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
No problem.
Mm-hmm.
No problem.
And talking about point spreads, how confident would you feel taking Alabama, or taking Tennessee plus 21 versus Bama?
I feel pretty confident. I think they can get that. So, question. You had a question for me. I have a question for you.
Sure.
What are we going to do with BYU? They are unbeaten. They did have a postponement game. Their whole schedule fell apart, and then they tried to put it together with whatever they could, which obviously the year of. These games get scheduled sometimes 4 years. Sometimes you do a deal with really high-profile teams, and you play them once, and then 5 years later you play them. Most time it's back-to-back home and home, but they just beat Houston. They have, they don't have a bunch of great wins by any stretch. They are going to play Boise State. They are going to play San Diego State. What do you do with this club that their schedule right in front of them just fell apart, but they're unbeaten? And this is a bigger picture that we talked about. Wonder if it is just kind of a, with the Big Ten and coming back this week, but then they're going to have 9 games. They're going to have 8 regular season and a championship week. Everybody gets an extra game, which I think is smart, gets them to 9. And then Pac-12 is going to have 6? Maybe they have a championship week. I don't know. But is this the year that they pop it to 8 just for the fun of it because it's a messed up thing, or what? Because it's going to probably suck for BYU. I guess that's my point.
Yeah, they might get the UCF treatment of, hey, you had a great year, you ran the table, but we're going to put in Bama and Georgia, both who beat each other once this year, and tough shit. Like, you know. But again, from a recruiting standpoint, publicity standpoint, you're getting a whole lot of perks with it. Like, it's something to enjoy as a fan base. Maybe if no team, well, okay, if no one besides Clemson goes undefeated this year, maybe it's just BYU and Clemson both undefeated. I mean, you never know. It is 2020. There weird shits happen this year, but it's going to be really hard because you're going to assume that even with one loss, Ohio State, people are huge on Ohio State, so they're probably going to make it. So I think that the odds of BYU making the Final Four is probably like 2 or 3%. But if enough crazy of losses happen, seen this year, so let's say you got. Well, let's assume it's going to be Bama or Georgia in, and then you got Clemson in. That's 2. Ohio State 3. The door's open there for the 4th spot. Again, this season, Ohio State could easily lose a game in the Big Ten this year. Like, a lot of shit could happen. So, I don't think anything's impossible. And
what about the 8? Do you think they should just do 1 year with 8 just because it's weird? Nobody has the right amount of games. People are getting screwed.
Yeah, or do 6 and give the top 2 buys, like something. Like,
sure.
Hockey playoffs were different. Baseball playoffs were different this year. NFL's added teams. Like, every team is being flexible, so there's no reason college football can't. So, yeah. But if you're BYU, run the table, say a couple of prayers. Crazier things have happened. So I wouldn't say it's impossible. But when you watch this team play, now, again, I'm not saying they could run the table in the SEC or anything crazy, but
no.
They play really hard defense. Their quarterback is overachieving, and they've beaten some solid teams. They've not, looked super impressive, but hell, Houston's a decent squad. Like, they've done their part. So it will be interesting if enough people lose to see if they could pause. Again, I'm giving it 3% chance, but 3% isn't 0 either, Chris.
Yeah, because they're going to have lesser wins than even Central Florida that year. So,
yeah,
I was kind of just more that 6 or 8 angle.
Sure. At that point,
then
I
think you got to put them in if they were undefeated at that point.
100%.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but probably not that interesting because then the NCAA would have to make a decision. They don't want to fucking do that.
Oh no.
Anything else though? Because we just hit the hour 2-minute mark. We want to shut this puppy down. Anything else besides, of course, the crappy pick of the week?
I would just say if you bet Tennessee, I will have a drink for you, and I wish you a lot of good luck Saturday because you're taking a quarterback who's had, I believe, 5 turnovers in the last 6 quarters against Bama, who just is Bama. So, yeah, good luck. That's all.
There we have it. All right, you want to close us out with the the crappy pick of the week that came down to a tight game last week too.
So to recap last week, where'd that beautiful hell of a game go? Navy, East Carolina, 27-23, Navy with the win. I believe didn't my man pick Navy?
I kind of forgot now. I thought I could have. I can't remember now. What? That sucks.
Shit.
I think I want to say that I was picking another team that didn't have a win, but would I do that back-to-back weeks? I don't know if I would.
God, we'll have to.
You know what? Oh man, this is disappointing. I think I actually like common sense, although there's really not a whole lot of it in this pick. Probably, I don't think I'd go that much of a stretch. Maybe I was just getting cocky from being 3-0, but I don't think I'd go that much of a stretch to go with another team this week that doesn't have a win that has to get a win. Because I did that the week before with Duke. Man, maybe I did pick. I know David Robinson was mentioned, but that's about it. So, God, I forgot now. We're gonna have to go check. I mean, obviously not right now, but
sure,
we're gonna have to go check.
All right, so we're gonna get our feet wet this week.
Start writing this thing down too. We've been remembering, but sometimes it's hard.
Yeah. So this blows my mind because I'm about to Chris, I'm about to tell you that one of the worst programs in the entire effing country who's not played a game all year is a 3.5-point favorite to start the season against a team who's 1-5. So I'm sure my wonderful co-host is wondering who the F are we talking about. This is a 2:30 Central game in the blessed state of Texas, where I'm from. So I'm some home cooking here. We got the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders, who have made an appearance on the Crafty Crap Pick of the Week so far this year.
Yep.
Against the Rice Owls, who, again, remind you, are one of the worst programs in the past 10 years in the entire country. They're getting 3.5 points, and they haven't played a game this year. Holy shit. Chris,
dude, and
take it away.
ESPN's high on them.
Take it away, my friend. Take it away. This is a garbage-ass game, but someone's going to watch. Someone's going to bet it.
This is it. This is, wow, this is crazy. Does like half the team have the virus or something for Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders? Because, no, they played last week. Oh, they played all right. They got their ass kicked. But they played. Wow. This is great. This is such a weird game. The freaking, according to ESPN's Football Power Index, they have it at 90. 90.2 for Rice, who hasn't even been on the field. And also, they only beat them 31-28 last year. Now, I don't know who's returning and if Rice Stadium is going to be jam-packed in Houston there. But, I mean, really? Wow. Okay. I mean, I'd love to do some stats for you, but there's just none. There's none to speak of. They're literally, they won't show the other side with their, because they don't have any game. Oh my God. But they won't even do the point average because there's no point average to have. Oh, that sucks. So it looks like, though, that the visiting team has O'Hara under center, and he is basically the team. When I look at it, of course, they have Pierce. He actually does catch the ball. He has 40 receptions. What am I saying? But this dude's got is this right? 117 carries for 407 and 4 touchdowns. And then he's got 9 touchdowns, 8 intercept. Wow, this is crazy. Man, wow. This is a good one, dude. Wow. Okay. They beat FIU this year 2 weeks ago. Rice beat them last year. Oh my God. This one caught me off guard.
This is truly a garbage game.
You know what? I don't know why I'm doing this. Even whoa, wait a second. Their only win last year. I didn't just see that. That didn't happen. Let me go over that really quick. Tell me their only win. I think I had to have read that wrong. That would be freaking hilarious. Hold on. I'm right here. I'll be there in a second. Their only. Oh, yeah, they did win. So they were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They were 0-9 before taking on TSU last year. And then they were on that's why they're all pumped, because they're a 3-game winning streak, dude. They beat UTEP too. So, I mean, now I'm starting to see this. Now I'm starting to see what ESPN's talking about. But you know what? Sometimes you got to take risks, and I'm going to O'Hara. O'Hara and Pierce. The combo of O'Hara and Pierce is going to get it done on the road in Houston. I don't care, 90%. You got to put that thing to 100 to sway me in this one. Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders for the W. Welcome to the season, Rice.
Oh, and as we've been wrapping it up this year, I love comparing alumni versus alumni. We have hit on some alumni from Middle Tennessee, but for those who maybe missed that episode, why not touch on it again? Your number one alumni ranked person from Middle Tennessee is Hillary Scott. She is an American songwriter, and she's Lady A of Lady Antebellum. Okay, so that's pretty good. That's a good country singer. The second person mentioned in Middle Tennessee State is Kyle Holcomb, who was a Browns quarterback that was complete trash.
Man, this is a depressing list so far, though.
There's a lady named Amber Holt who played professional basketball for the Tulsa Shock, which are no longer in the WNBA. My girl Aisha Clark, who I actually like from WNBA, we mentioned her last time.
Yeah.
Chris Young's a country singer. James M. Buchanan, I don't think he was a president. He was a American economist. Oh boy.
This is a pretty bad list.
Jesus, yeah, there's not a whole lot to brag about from the good old Middle Tennessee alumni. When they have their reunions, there's not much gloating.
They have good songs though, and they can do like a pickup game.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys pictured in NFL jerseys. I just never have heard their names, so I'm not going to say them because I think that's just I'm stretching. Now we have the Rice alumni.
Oh yeah.
Who, we got Lance Berkman, a former Houston Astro from the trash can alumni. Oh boy. Or is that a fastball or a curve? I'm not sure which you're saying there. I know my boy Anthony Rendon, who helped my Nationals win a World Series last year, went to Rice, and that dude's a freaking stud. He'll always be one of my favorite.
Oh yeah, because they got a great baseball program. I forgot.
That's right. They do. They have another baseball player named David Ardisma, who was okay of a pitcher for I think the Braves and the Rays. Larry Izzo was the famous Patriots linebacker for I think a couple
Izzo,
of.
He probably played baseball there too.
Mm-hmm. And Brock Holt, a Red Sox, actually now a current National as well. So it's pretty much, there's not a whole lot. We have a garbage Browns back at quarterback and some baseball players we love. So this is kind of a down week for the alumni, but it's kind of fitting, Chris, because that game you just broke down is one of the worst games we've ever discussed in our 7 years of doing this. And again, Rice is favored, and they've not played a snap this year.
And if you tell ESPN, you might as well not even watch the game, according to them.
It is streaming on ESPN3, so if you are interested to tune in, it's there available for you. But I think there might be better options at 2:30. Some Big Ten game must be on, and SEC football will be being played. But if you're a diehard and you want to,
if you want to make money,
if you want to make money,
if you're talking about money, that's different.
Yeah, everyone's got to pay their bills.
We're calling Navy. Did I pick Navy? I don't think I went back to back. Did I? I wouldn't have been that dumb. Well, I went out early.
So nonetheless, the boys have a winning record. We're up. We're cashing tickets. So Chris says take the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders because they've played 6 games here and Rice has played 0. So I like that advantage too. Until then, mask up, go and vote. Be safe. The boys are out tonight. Peace.